Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Yutes Amud Beis. 5 lines from the bottom. After the Gemara had previously told us, beginning of Rabbi Yossi's statement, Yehei chelki me'oichli sholosh sa'udos, and then there was a series of statements, Yehei chelki, my portion be with those who fulfill various mitzvahs. Then the Gemara had brought Teisi li dekayemes sholosh sa'udos. May my have schar come to me for being mekayim sholosh seudos, or some learn that may I have siyata dishmaya to mekayim sholosh seudos, and then a series of statements of teisi li. Then the Gemara had brought the reasons for churban bayis rishon lechorva Yushalayim, and the first one being ela bishul shechilu bayis hashabbos, and then a series of different reasons for why there was churban Yushalayim. Now the Gemara continues. Because there was no more people who were truthful. Shene'emar, it brings a pasuk, shoitetu b'chutzos Yushalayim, walk around the outskirts of Yushalayim, u're'una, and please see, u'du'u bakshu b'rechovoiseho, and know and seek out in the streets, im timtzu ish, if you will find a person, im yesh oise mishpat mevakesh emuna, if you will seek somebody else and find somebody who desires, who seeks out emuna, who's trustworthy, who wants truth. Ve'eslach la, Hashem says, I will forgive Yushalayim. Eini asks the Gemara, is that so? Ve'homa Rav Katino, afilu b'shas kishloino shel Yushalayim. Even at the time of the downfall of Yushalayim, still there was not a seizing of people who were truthful. Anshe Amona, Shenemaz is in the pasuk. First, I'll read you the entire pasuk. Ki yispois ish be'ochiv. If a person will grab one of his relatives, beis aviv, somebody from his father's household, simula lacha, he will say that you have a garment amongst all of the poverty. Katzin tielonu, be a katzin for us. Katzin means a leader. Vehamachshela zois tachas yodcha, and this stumbling block will be under your hand. Says the Gemara, ki yispois ish be'achiv beis aviv. If you will grab a relative, somebody in your father's household, simla lecha, then you have a garment, even amongst the abject poverty. Katzin tielonu, be for us a katzin. The Gemara now darshans this. What is it referring to? A simla lecha, that you have a simla. Devarim, referring to divrei Torah. Shebnei adam miskasin bohen, that people tried to hide, avert their eyes to try to then answer a question because of their lack of knowledge. Kisimla, like a garment that covers up a person's body. Yesh nabiyotcha, but you do have knowledge. Therefore, be our katzin, be our leader, teach us Torah. The pasuk said, "V'hamachshela azos tachas yotcha," and this stumbling block will be under your hand. You have control. The Gemara explains on top of Kuf Chof Amud Aleph, Dvarim, referring to Divrei Torah, she'ein b'nei adam oimdin aleihem, elim kem nichsholim ben. These are the words that a person has to first stumble upon them in order to then get clarity, referring to the Divrei Torah. Those are the machshel that we're talking about. Then the pasuk says, Yeshnan tachas yadcha, you have it underneath your hand. Therefore, katzin tiyelenu, be a katzin, be somebody who is a leader and teaches the Torah to us. The pasuk then goes on to say, the Gemara brings, Yisa bayoim hahu leimor. I'll read the entire pasuk. Lift up on that day to say, Lo ehe yechoivesh, I will not be a choivesh, a leader. Ubevesi ein lechem ve'ein simla, in my house I don't have bread or garment. Lo tisumeni katzin am, don't make me a katzin for the people. The Gemara explains, Yisa bayoim hahu leimor, lo ehe yechoivesh ve'goymer ein yisa elo loshen shvua. It's a shvua, an oath. V'chein hu oimer lo tisa es shem Hashem. He goes on to say in the pasuk, Lo eye choivesh, I shall not be a ruler. Lo eye mechoiv she'atzmon beveis hamidrash, because I did not be one who then put himself in the Beis HaMedrash to learn the Torah behasmada. I don't know Torah. Ubebeisi ein lechem ve'in simla. And in my house I don't have lechem and simla, which is a metaphor for the following. Shein biyadi la bikra v'lo mishnah v'lo gemara. So he's being truthful. Although people come to say to him, teach us Torah, you know Torah. He says, I don't know Torah. I don't know Gemara. I don't know Mishnah. I don't know the Mikra. And therefore I cannot be your teacher of Torah. So we see there's Anshe Amana, people who are truthful. The Gemara then asks on this, Umamai, how do you have a proof that there are people who are truthful? Dilmo Shaini Hasamer, maybe they had no other choice other than to say they don't know Torah. Because the Omar Lahu Gamirna, because if he were to say to them, I do know, I have knowledge of the Torah, Amrulei, they'll say to him, Emalon, then tell us. The Gemara says, Havulei Lamer, because if so, if he was not really truthful, then he could have said, Gomar v'shachar, I learned, but I forgot. My lo yachavesh. What does it mean, lo yachavesh? It means klal. He doesn't know, he didn't put himself in the Beis HaMedrash, he doesn't know Torah at all. And therefore he's truthful in saying, I cannot be your teacher, teaching you Torah. The Gemara answers, Lo kasha, this is not a difficulty, because kan b'divrei Torah, kan b'masa umaton. Here in regards to Torah, he's being truthful, but in regards to masa umaton, that was what brought the churban bayis rishon, the churban of Yerushalayim, because they were not truthful in regards to masa umaton, giving and taking business dealings. They did not have integrity, and therefore that brought about the churban. The Gemara now brings the next Mishnah that discusses our subject that we began before about being matzil, things from a fire on Shabbos. Matzilin sal mole kikarois, afavishayesh boy meya suudois. The Mishnah tells us over here that when there's a fire that breaks out chalil on Shabbos, one may save a sal, a basket that has meya kikaros, lavdafka meya, but it has many kikaros, many loaves of bread that are beyond 3 suudos on Shabbos. The eagle shall devela, and also a cake of figs that were pressed together, which is again much more than the size of just 3 su'udos. The chavi shel yain, and a barrel of wine, which again is more than the amount one would drink at 3 su'udos on Shabbos. The Mishnah goes on to say, V'omer la'acherim, he can say to other people, Bo v'hitzilu lochem, come and save for yourselves this food on Shabbos. V'im hayu pikchin, oisin imo cheshbon acher haShabbos. And if they are pichin, if they are wise people, then they can make a cheshbon with him after Shabbos. The Gemara will explain this. The Mishnah asks, from where are they going to then matzil these foodstuffs that we're talking about that are from a burning house? Says the Gemara Mishnah, l'chatza ha'mu'ureves, to bring it out to a chatza that is mu'ureves. We know that the houses shared many houses shared one chotzer, and midirabanan all the time from Shlomo HaMelech, it was prohibited to walk from and taking objects from a house into a joined chotzer, because the houses were privately owned and the chotzer was shared by everybody in the chotzer that had different houses, and therefore bringing from a house to the chotzer an object, although the chotzer was closed entirely as a reshus hayachid, but it was something that Chachamim were concerned about, even Shlomo HaMelech, that they were concerned that maybe a person will then carry to the reshus harabim. So they required a eruv to be done, an eruv chatzeros, which would require that a loaf of bread from each house would be put into one person's house, whereby that would enjoin all of the people together, whereby they can then carry from the house to the chatzor or vice versa. So here we're talking about, even though it's a hatzalah on Shabbos of the shalosh sudos, in this case we're talking about foodstuffs, nonetheless, although we're talking about something that's not muktzah, and still we're only talking about bringing into the chatzah that has an eruv, nonetheless there's certain requirements, certain limitations, and this message says a sal that's molei. Ben Beseira oimer af l'she'ena me'ureves. Ben Beseira says it doesn't have to be a chatzah that is me'ureves in order to save the foodstuffs on Shabbos from a fire. Either the previous Mishnah that was discussing shalosh sudos, and this Mishnah that says a sal molei. Ulesham moitzi kol kli tashmishal. The Mishnah goes on to say that there you can go ahead and bring your kli tashmishal plates, forks, knives, whatever you would need for your su'udos, from your house to the chotzer. V'loivesh kol ma sheyochel lilboish. You can wear whatever garments that you can put on your person and bring those out without any limitation. Whatever you can put on yourself, you can bring it out. V'oitev kol ma sheyochel la'atav. And you can also wear whatever those garments, scarves and other things that you would enwrap yourself with. Rabbi Yossi Omer Yudches Kelim. Rabbi Yossi argues and he says only 18 garments can a person take out, since that's the normal wearing a person wears is up to 18 garments. Therefore, he can only take out 18 garments when there's a fire on Shabbos from his house to bring it to the chotzer. The Mishnah goes on to say a person could wear the garments on and then bring them out to the chotzer, then disrobe and come back to the house and then put on more garments and come back to the chotzer. He can say to them, Bo'u v'hitzilu imi. And he can say to those stand buyers, he can say to them, come and be matzil the garments together with me. Says the Gemara, V'hotana le reisha shalosh su'udois v'suloi. Ask the Gemara right away. The previous Mishnah had taught us that you can only save up to 3 su'udois. In fact, we said that if it was, let's say, Shabbos morning, you already ate the nighttime Suda, the Leil Shabbos Suda, then you can only save 2 Sudos, according to Tanakama. And therefore, how can our Mishnah say you can be matzil a sal mole, even though it has several kikaros that are going to be more than the size of 3 Sudos? Omar Rav Huna loy kasha. Kan bibol lahatzil, kan bibol lakapil. That when it comes to our Mishnah over here, it's talking about being matzil, meaning with one kli. That is mutter, even if it's going to be beyond the amount of 3 sudos. Whereas that which it stated in the previous Mishnah, up to 3 sudos, is talking about lekapil, when you're going to gather in together and fold into the from various many klis into that itself will bring all those klis together. That can only be an amount of 3 sudos, a total of 3 sudos, but not more. And that's what the Gemara says, that if you're going to be matzil, you can be matzil even beyond the amount of 3 su'udos, because it's going to be with one kli. Whereas if you're going to then take more than one kli, then it can only be up to 3 su'udos. Ask the Gemara, Rabbi Abba bar Zavda Omar Rav Rabbi Abba bar Zavda Rav explains in another way how to miyashev the steer between the previous Mishnah that says up to 3 sudos and our Mishnah that says even more than 3 sudos. They're both coming to be mekapil. They're both coming to then gather together from different kalim. But it's not a difficulty. We can still miyashev the two Mishnayos. Kan la'oisa chotzer, kan la'chotzer acheres. When it comes to the chotzer that's right here, then the immediate chotzer, that you can bring even more than 3 su'udos. Whereas when it comes to a chotzer that is further away, that would require only up to 3 su'udos. Ask the Gemara, boy Rav Huna bered Rav Yoshua the following question: Peireis talisa v'kipel v'hiniach mai. When a person takes a talis and he spreads it out, then he takes kalim and he puts the foodstuffs into that talis. Then he brings other foodstuffs from a different kalim and puts it into the talis until he finally fills up the talis and he wraps it up. Bebo lahatzil dami or bebo lekapil dami. Is it compared to that which is matzil, like it's one kli? Because after all, he's wrapping into one kli and taking it out. Or do we say it's compared to be mekapil, while you're taking several kalim and you're being matriach yourself for each and every keli to then bring it to this one talis? So therefore that would be problematic to take more than 3 su'udos. Answers the Gemara B'damar Rava, from the fact that Rava said the following: Ate Rav Shizvi l'Rav Chizda. Rav Shizvi, he misled Rav Chizda v'darash, and he made the following drasha. Here it's going on a brisa that we had quoted earlier, that the brisa had stated that if there is a kli of, let's say, wine that breaks on the gag, on the rooftop, so a person can take the one kli and put it one kli to then receive the yayin, but he cannot go ahead and take other kelim and then put them in the air to then receive the droppings of the wine, and he can't take a kli to put it on the edge of the roof. So it says over here, V'dorash, and Rosh Shizvi made the following drasha: Ubilvash lo yavi kli shehu machzik yoiser migimel suudos. So long as providing you don't bring a kli that can be machzik more than 3 sudos. If you bring a kli that can be machzik more than 3 sudos, that's a problem, says Rav Shizvi. Shma Mina, the fact that Rava said that he misled Rav Chizda, Shma Mina, that indeed, that if it's a kli that is greater than the size of 3 sudos, that would be okay, says Rava. That would be okay, and therefore it's similar to that which bring matzil. Although you're taking many different kelim and putting it into this one talis, and then filling up the talis, and then wrapping it up and taking it out, that's similar to then the wine that is dripping into a kli that's bigger than the size of 3 suudos. Although it's dripping from one place, it's compared to being dripping from a tircha of slow drippings until it finally fills up a size that's greater than 3 suudos, whereby Rava is telling us that that's going to be okay, that's permissible. Omar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak l'Rava. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said to Rava the following: My ta'usa. What was the toes that Rav Shizvi misled Rav Chizda? Omar le diktoni, for the fact that it said bilvad shelo yavi kli acher, providing that you don't bring another kli, v'yikloi kli acher, and then v'koilate the wine with another kli from mid-air, from its droppings in mid-air, and catch it in mid-air, v'yitzaref kli acher, and then bring another kli to then go on the edge of the roof. Hu deloi, only another kli from the outside cannot be brought to then catch the wine. That's prohibited. Aval be'achi, but the very kli itself, mana, kama deboy matzil, as long as it is that very kli, it can be as big as even beyond 3 suudos, and that's what he said was misleading, because it was sounding from Rav Shizvi, it cannot be bigger than 3 suudos, and Rava is pointing out that it could, yes, be larger than 3 suudos. If the kli is bigger, it's okay. The Gemara now quotes the Mishnah. It quotes really the eagle shall develop, but it's going on the hemshech of the Mishnah, because the Mishnah said that indeed those that he's telling can go ahead and save the foodstuffs together with him. So he says to them afterwards, the Mishnah says, if they are wise, then they can make a cheshbon with him after Shabbos. Ask the Gemara, cheshbon, my avidite. What is it referring to that he has to make a cheshbon? Why would he have to make a cheshbon? After all, if they're saving these foodstuffs, then it's all hefker. They can keep it for themselves. So why did they have to make a cheshbon after Shabbos? Mehefkera kizachu. They were zocher from hefker, so it belongs to them now. And that's what he said to them. He said in the lashon like this. He said, "Bo v'hitzilu lochem. Come and save these things for yourselves." Answers the Gemara, Amar Rav Chizda, Midas Chasidus Shanukan. We're talking about Midus Chasidus, that the Pichin, if they were Pichin, then they can go ahead and make a cheshbon with him after Shabbos. Ask the Gemara, Amar Rava, Chasidei Agro de Shabbosa de Shakli. These are Chasidim that would go ahead and take what seems to be Schar Shabbos. In other words, Chasidim wouldn't want to have, even though it's not truly Schar Shabbos, but Chasidim wouldn't have even a connection to that which appears to be like Schar Shabbos. And therefore, they wouldn't want to go ahead Motzei Shabbos and come to him and say, now give us our schar for the food that we saved. We're not talking about Chasidim that wouldn't have any nidnud, any connection to Schar Shabbos. We're talking about Yirei Shamayim. They don't want to have hana from somebody else's property by saving it in such circumstances when the person has a fire. They're taking advantage of him by saving his things and then taking it from him. That they don't want to do. They're Yerushalayim. On the other hand, but they also don't want to do it for free. And therefore, it says over here, When it says over here pichim, it says like this: V'im hayu pichim. That means that they know the halacha that it's not truly a promised schar Shabbos, because he said to them, you can save whatever you want for yourselves. So therefore, they can take it for themselves, and then afterward they can decide that even not to keep for themselves, they can go ahead and give it back to him, and they can get him to give him schar tircha. The yodei de ki agavna lav schar Shabbos. This is not schar Shabbos, so meikar din there's no prohibition. Oisin imoy cheshbon lachar Shabbos. These pichin who are baki in Hilchos Shabbos can then make a cheshbon with him after Shabbos. The Mishnah said, where do you bring this foodstuffs to? What type of chotzer? When the fire is in a house, you can take the foodstuffs, the Tanakhama says, to a chotzer that's mu'urevis. Maishna hacha diktani lochem, u'maishna hacha diktani imi. Why does it say over here, the Mishnah that is being quoted goes on to say that when it comes to then not only food, but it comes to garments, he can also save. And he can put on the garments and save as much as he can wear. Not only that, he can actually go out to the chutzner, disrobe. He can go back to the house and put on more clothes, and then go back to the chutzner and disrobe and keep on doing that. So why over here, when it comes to saving the garments, it says, imi, it says, he says to them, instead of saying to them like he did in the Mishnah before, in the Mishnah earlier, that he says in regards to the foodstuffs, he says bo vitzilu lochem. Here he says bo vitzilu imi. Why over there he said for yourselves, and here he says with me? Amrei gabe mezonos ketoni lochem. In regards to mezonos, he says save for yourself. Why? Because mishum de lo kochazu ela mozon gemul sodas. Because it's not fitting for him to have more than 3 sudos. He's not allowed to have more than 3 sudos. So he says to them, save the foodstuffs for yourselves, because he can't have more than the 3 sudas that he's saving for himself. Aval gabe levushim kitoni imi. But in regards to the clothing, he can say, save this clothing with me. Why? Because he could have more than the amount of clothing that he has personally right now. Like he himself can go ahead and take those clothing out to the chutzner, disrobe, and come back to the house and save more. So he can say to them, go ahead and save with me. Mishum dechachazi le lekuli yoyma. Since these are going to be fitting for the entire day, he can wear more, and therefore it is permissible. That's why I use the lashon of imi instead of for you. Tonu Rabban, the Gemara now brings the following brayso: Lo yivesh moitziu poishet v'chayz v'lo yivesh moishi poishet. A person can go out to the chutz, as we said, disrobe, and come back to the house. Va'afilu kol hayom kulo di Rabbi Meir. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi Omer shmoina asar kelim. Rabbi Yossi argues and says there's only 18 garments that you can wear and save from the fire. Ve'eluhem shmoina asar kelim. These are the 18 garments as follows. Miktoirin, these are a cloak. Unkali is a coat. Upunda, a type of belt, a wide belt. Kalvus shel pishtan, a vest made out of linen. V'chaluk, a tunic. Va'afilus, a robe. Uma'afores, and a wrapping around the head. V'shnei seforikin, and 2 sashes. V'shnei mina'olim, and it could be the shnei seforikin is a sash that is two sashes, right? V'shnei minolim, and two shoes. V'shnei anpilos, and 2 socks. V'shnei pargod, here it's not talking about 2, it's talking about shorts. V'chagor shebemasnov, and a belt. V'koiv sheberoishoy, and a hat. V'sudar shebetzavoroy, and a scarf that he wraps around his neck. A total of 18 garments. The Mishnah goes on to say, Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas Oimer, Porsin or Shel Gedi. Here we're talking about a new subject in regards to putting out a fire. You can't put out a fire on Shabbos, but maybe you can go ahead and do something to prevent the fire from spreading. Says Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas, Porsin or Shel Gedi. You can take a ore that is moist from a gedi, al gabe shida teva umigdal, and you can put it on the part of the shida teva migdal of the closets. Sha'ochaz bohenes ha'ur, that the fire has becoming and inflaming these closets. You can put it on the other side of the closet, because the or will not become inflamed, it won't become burnt, but rather it will just become singed. And therefore, it will protect the rest of the closet. V'oisin mechitza b'kol hakelim. The Mishnah goes on to say you can make a mechitza with any type of kelim to prevent the fire from spreading. Bein melein, bein rekonim, whether these are kelim that are full or they are empty. Bishvil shalotav or the fire should not then spread. Rabbi Yossi oise bekli cheres chadoshim melei mayim lefishen yechoin lekabos ha'ur. Rabbi Yossi argues and he says it's prohibited to put a kli filled with water if it's a new kli of cheres, because once the fire comes in contact with the kli cheres, it will certainly break the kli cheres, causing the water to then come out and douse the flames. Because again, the kli will open up and then cause the water to then pour out and then extinguish the fire. Says the Gemara, Rav Yehuda Marav, Talis she'ochaz bo ha'ur mitzad echod. If you have a talis that became inflamed on one side, noisin aleh mayim mitzad acher. You can put water on the other side of the talis. Vim kavsa kavsa. And if it becomes extinguished, then it becomes extinguished. That's the statement that Rav made. Ask the Gemara from the following brayso. Meisvei, talis she'ochaz ba'ur mitzad echod, poishto miskase ba, vim kavsa kavsa. Here it says that if a person found that his talis on one side has a fire, he can then open up the rest of the talis. It doesn't not dafka that he has to put it on himself, because he can open it up, and that itself may prevent the fire from spreading, can even then cause the fire to be extinguished. If it's extinguished, it's extinguished. Similarly, when it comes to a Sefer Torah Chalil that becomes on fire, then he can open up the Sefer Torah. Lav Dafa can read it if he wants, but it means he can open up in a regular way. And therefore that might itself cause it to become then extinguished. So the Gemara is asking, we don't see that you can put water on the other side of the talis, or put water on one edge of, let's say, the Torah, so that then the flame will become extinguished. The best that you can do is open up the talis or open up the Sefer Torah in order to then prevent it from spreading. Answers the Gemara on the top of Kuf Chof Amud Beis, Hu da Amar ki Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas. Rav is of the opinion of our Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas, who says that you can indeed go ahead and put it out with gram kibui. Says the Gemara, Eimer da Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas mnei shehu mecharech. When did he say you can put the ore of the moist ore of the gidi on the teva? That's when you can go ahead and do it so that it will then be mnei shehu mecharech, because it will just become singed and then will prevent the fire from spreading onto the rest of the closet. Gram kibui mi Omar. Who says that you can do gram kibui? That you can go ahead and put, let's say, a water on the other side, so that when the fire comes in contact, it will become extinguished. Answers the Gemara in that Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas does hold of gram kibui, and that's the shita of Rav over here as well. Midiktani say from the fact that the Sefer teaches Rabbi Yossi oise bekli cheres chadashim melei mayim she'enim yechon lekabel sa'ur vehemes akin umechabin esadleika. From the fact that the Sefer of the Mishnah says that Rabbi Yossi argues, and he says that you cannot fill up a cup, a glass, a kli of water, not a glass rather, but a cheres, a new cheres of water, because then when the kli comes in contact with the fire will then open up, it'll break open the kli cheres, causing the water to then pour out, and then mechabe the flames. So the Gemara says, from the fact that that's Rabbi Yossi's shita, and he argues on Tanakama, Michlal the Tanakama Shari, it follows that indeed Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas does hold of gram kibui, and that which he said that you can take the moist ore and put it onto the second side of the teva didn't just mean to singe, because it will only get singed and not then and not allow the fire to spread. Rather, what it really meant to say is that by putting the ore on that side of the teva, it will actually then cause the fire to become extinguished. It's gram kibui.